again. I'm with Murray Jagger, Chairman of Marsden Maritime Holdings and of Northport. So Murray, thanks for joining us today. How are you keeping?
Morning, Peter. No, I'm very good, thank you. And I'm actually in one of these privileged positions where business as usual for us.
Fabulous. And by us, you're talking about your farm out at Whangarei Heads.
I am. It's a busy time of the year and we've got plenty to do.
On what sort of scale do you think we're going to see the impact of COVID-19 on Northland, and how long do you see the situation enduring for?
I think the scale is going to be, it's going to vary, and how long it's going to go for, it's not quite certain yet. But I think after lockdown, I think you're going to see a long period of recovery. And so it's going to take probably years more than months to get back to what we consider semi-normality. I think businesses are going to have to reinvent themselves, a lot of businesses. But Northland itself, I think, is going to be in a better position than a number of other provinces because we're mainly provincial, rural backed. And if you look at the service towns throughout Northland, the primary sector actually supports them. And whilst the primary sector does well, I think that spending will carry on. So Northland potentially could bounce back quicker than some other provinces. Unfortunately, the big hit for us is going to be the tourism. And tourism is going to take some time to recover because I believe the borders will stay shut for a long period of time, and overseas visitors are going to have to get a lot more confidence to travel again. And so we need to actually be innovative and look at opportunities within our current infrastructure and look at, how can we leverage those. That will be the new diversification.
Which kind of leads me on nicely to the next question, which is, what do you think our priorities should be as a region? And how do you think those differ from other regions? I've used the Golden Triangle as an example in other interviews.
I think if we look at the government's focus in the last year or so around supporting the provincial centres, particularly around the primary provincial growth funds, there are some projects within those that should be pushed harder and get them moving because they're going to help get us out of this mire. And I think there's some real opportunity here for local businesses. I see a real opportunity here for collaboration, cooperation, and working together more. And I think we're very well placed now. I think that a number of these projects that have been on the forefront recently will now escalate. But we've got an opportunity to actually reinvigorize local businesses to actually get behind them and use local businesses as opposed to outside businesses, because we're seeing retrenchment in all companies, and some of these big infrastructural project companies are they're not going to have the manpower that they did have when they before we went into this. So I think there's an opportunity here for local businesses to combine, collaborate, and work together.
So, Murray, if you had $500 million to invest in Northland businesses, what sectors would you be looking at, and why?
I think we've got to look at those infrastructural projects that are going to be tangible and change makers. And if I look at two that have been on the list of things that I've been involved with on the outside is one is the dry dock at Northport and the Navy transfer. And if you look at those two, the Navy will be some time away. But if you look at the dry dock, for example, that's going to require a lot of manpower and suppliers and companies that are local. So we can quickly ramp up employment and get people into some of those infrastructural projects. The flow-on effect is that if there is a decision, and I'm hoping that central government is going to make some decisions around those big infrastructural, continuing those big infrastructural projects, because they are what is going to get the country back on track again. We need to realise also, there are some businesses that are not going to come out of this, and there's going to be a workforce looking for things to do, and so we're going to have to retrain some people to do things. And if we look at our training systems to date, we've had a lot of people that are not trained in the areas that they need to be, and we need to have some training programs that support getting people back into new roles of work and new ways of doing things. So those are probably the areas that I'd be investing in, to try and get money back in families' pockets, because that's what's going to make the world turn around.
Absolutely. Okay. So I guess leading on from that, what are the sectors that you think are going to thrive in New Zealand generally over the next decade or two? And what is being done or needs to be done, in your view, to bring this activity to Northland, if anything at all?
I'd see rural New Zealand faring reasonably well, as long as market prices hold up for those products. It's the city centres that'll struggle, because their roles are more supportive as opposed to primary. So I think that's where the challenge is going to be. I think so. Provincial New Zealand, I think, with the right investment, will be the winners out of this, because they'll respond and bounce back quickly.
A renaissance for the zombie provinces, eh?
Well, it is. It is a renaissance, and it's if you look at Shane Jones's focus on supporting the provinces, this is finally going to come to fruition. It's not necessarily because of extra investment; it's because they were always there. They were always there. They were always producing product and supporting communities, and it's going to happen again. Okay. And the only reason that it wouldn't is if our market prices slumped and we became under pressure as well. So I can see a couple of things happening. One is there are going to be people around the world will look at us as have dealt with this in a successful way, and we will be a safe haven. We always were, but I think that might increase, and we may get an influx of international people wanting to move to New Zealand because it is a safe haven, and along with that comes skills, and so that's going to be helpful. The second point is that upon the time of lockdown, a number of Aucklanders travelled north to repopulate their batches because they felt comfortable there and safe there, and it was some open space for them. We're going to get a migration of skilled professionals, perhaps move from Auckland north, and don't just use Northland as a batch and a place to holiday, but they'll reside here. So we could get a skill transfer with that type of behaviour.
What do you think Northland business leaders should be doing as a collective to help haul us back out of the COVID ditch? I mean, if you were able to gather your peers around a table somewhere and thresh out a plan for business leaders as a collective, in your view, what would it look like, Murray?
Well, I think the key is positivity and enthusiasm around what the opportunities lie ahead. I think leadership is about looking at the opportunities, being intentional, enthusiastic, and promote those areas that we can actually do well. Now I think if you look at identify what those infrastructural projects, the ones that are, I wouldn't say they're low-hanging fruit, but the ones that are we can get onto and get moving, we need to focus on those, and we need to believe in ourselves. I'll use the forestry as an example. They are sitting around and working at what their recovery looks like. how they're going to go about speeding up and ramping up the recovery. And that's what we need to do as community leaders. What is it that is key to actually ramping up our recovery? How can we get these key businesses that are based in Northland focused on moving again and getting their people employed? So I think it's absolutely crucial, and it's a flow-on effect from that cooperative approach collaborative approach we've all been doing in the last 3 or 4 weeks.
So localism breathes again. This is really all about locals helping locals, and figuring out how to make that happen, right?
Yep, absolutely. And I think it's not going to happen on its own. We need to make it happen. We've got the capabilities. We've got the people, and we've got some projects in front of us that we can actually sink our teeth into. We're not necessarily going to have to reinvent the wheel here. There's some things in front of us that we can actually get on and get into. Let's have a collective approach. I think what you're going to see is the reinvention of some manufacturing type businesses in New Zealand. I think there's going to be less reliance on imported goods and services. Yeah. And we're going to go back to community strength. We're going to go back to manufacturing. We're going to use the capabilities that we currently have. We don't need to go outside and get all those. Get the locals together and focus on those important issues and get our people back to work, because that's the key.
Encouraging stuff. Murray Jagger, thank you very, very much indeed for your time today.